Asylum seekers and illegal immigrants are now crossing the southern border in Arizona and California more than they do in Texas for the time being.
This is happening as a coalition of Republican governors prepares to head to the Texas border this weekend. Fox 4's Blake Hansen in now with more on the ramped-up role of states in border defense. Blake.
Heather and Steve, more states this week have pledged to send manpower and other resources to the border. And while there is apparently progress in terms of Congress's plan to hatch out a border deal, there is some evidence that recent changes at the border might be having an impact.
And we're back. And today we've got our good friend Keith Graves back again and Tactical Karl. Karl, just for the benefit of the Survival Dispatch audience, give us the Cliff Notes version of your background.
Boom, it's Tactical Karl, so they call me the Boom Man. All right, guys, so a little bit of background about me. I did 8 years in the Army National Guard as a combat engineer. I'm going on my 10th year in law enforcement, working the streets of Houston. I'm part of our SRG team and do a whole bunch of other things. Also, I'm the owner and operator of Stevenson's Tactical Training that teach people how to stay alive in violent incidents in the world.
Let's just jump right in here. We've got all this crazy shit going on at the border. We got Texas standing up to the feds. I know you've got a bunch of contacts that are working the border, especially Eagle Pass. Of course, Keith has connections across the entire country in law enforcement. But Karl, tell me what exactly is going on at Eagle Pass. Give me the numbers, because when you mentioned them to me, they were mind-blowing.
Man, there's literally millions of people that are passing through. So before I got out the National Guard, my whole entire unit got activated to the border because we need engineers. Engineers were the ones that's going to put up the Constitution wire. We're the ones that's going to look for IEDs. We're the ones that's going to help build stuff. Our counterparts, our 12 Charlies, individuals like that who come in and they come in with the heavy equipment to help supply and do the things to harden the border. Also, my state troopers, like I said, I train a lot of people on law enforcement, different things like that. I have multiple troopers down there that work there directly in Eagle Pass. So, and I'm still rolling, brother?
Yep, you're good.
Right there in Eagle Pass, it's wild. I worked on the Brownsville for a little bit of my time and talking about being in the box where you tell, hey, Border Patrol, this individual's running, they go scoop them up, do different things like that. But right now, what I'm hearing is our guys down there, especially the troopers, the Border Patrol agents, because a lot of us from the National Guard went Border Patrol because we're working on the border so much that we're seeing the things that's happening. So right now, the kitty gloves are on. They're so tied up with processing people through that they don't have the opportunity and availability to actually go out and catch and find evil, seek evil, and stop evil. So what we're having is a multitude of individuals that is flooding our border walls. And guess what? When you don't have the law enforcement capacity and the numbers, because the numbers are already low, because nobody wants to be the police anymore. Same thing going for the federal side. So you have all these people pushing through. What do you have? Now the only thing you can do is process people in. So while you're processing these people in, the bad people are coming over. I'm telling you, we're taking down drug dealers. We're taking down cartel. We're taking down killers. We're taking down murderers. There's individuals from all over the world that can flood our borders right now because it's so easy and it's so wide open. And we're not talking about the people that come in caravans and say, hey, Mr. Border Patrol, I'm here to turn myself in. I want you to think about the people that's very bad that comes across the water, the people that you can't stop that's happening. And the reason why, if you don't have the manpower, then guess what? You're stuck. If it's 10 of us standing on the line and now we have 100 people come through and we have to process them, what do you have? You have complete chaos. We have to worry about their safety and their well-being. And with our world today, with our leader, Mr. Joe Biden, Mr. Sleepy over there, he's allowing them to push forward and go through because we have, and whatever the black lady name is, his little speaker for him, I feel bad for her.
KJP.
Yeah, because he has to try to fix stupid because we're dealing with stupid. So with dealing with stupid, it's this hands-off approach to life that's like, hey, little immigrant, we're going to bring you over. And there's nothing wrong with immigrants, but we need to have something put in place because it only takes one bad guy to mosey on through. Well, forget that. It takes 10. 10 dedicated individuals that's dedicated to seeing destruction and evil done to America. And then we keep getting in wars and kicking shit off. Guess what? Destruction and evil is coming our way. We keep killing people and we have an open border.
Absolutely. So before I turn over to Keith here quickly. So before Eagle Pass was reinforced and before Texas took a stand, give me an idea of the volume, because the numbers you and I discussed are not what Joe Biden is saying the numbers are. And then tell me how much of a trickle that gets knocked down to once you put all the barriers in place.
Man, so they're talking about damn near 2-3 million people in a couple of months that's rolling through. Before that, you're looking at 2,400, 2,300 people that's coming through. Because guess what? The illegal immigrants knew this. This is what they knew. They knew that if you come to Texas, you're illegal, you're probably going to get deported, you're going to go away. The cartel uses this as propaganda. They literally take the words that comes out of Joe Biden's mouth. Hey, the border's open. We're going to take care of you. We're going to give you a cell phone. We're going to give you money to live here. If I'm somewhere and there's it's just like being married. There's some woman over here that's telling you that she's going to take care of you, she's going to feed you, she's going to provide you with food, do all the nasty things of your imagination to your world to come on over. You're going to be like, hey, well, maybe, and I'm living in this hellhole and I'm single. Then guess what? You're going to try the waters at that moment. So
Sure.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing right now. The numbers are crazy. I wish I didn't write down the exact number. I don't want to be wrong, but we're talking about from hundreds to millions that's crossing through right now, because they're opening up and they're telling people that it's okay and is acceptable to pass. And that little Eagle part, that's where the water's lowest. That's where you have your closest city. Okay. So that's why they're pushing at that point, because it's the easiest route to go with. You start going down the water line, it gets higher, different things start to change. So that's the quickest place that they're migrating through. Then they hit the border town, they keep on going. But right now, you don't even have to sneak into the country, because you just cross, you give yourself up. The feds, they take you on in. Hello, little baby. Hello, middle-aged, fighting-sized soldier man from China. Come on in. That's why we have that type of movement.
Before I pass off to Keith, did you guys catch today that Tucker Carlson broke some news, and he had some expert on that essentially said there are at a bare minimum 30,000 special ops, special forces soldiers from the Chinese PRC, People's Republic Army, or whatever it is. Huge number. And I've seen videos of guys down there asking what country they're from, and it's one Chinese national after another, after another, after another.
This episode of SDN is brought to you by Switch It Up, your national grid down service provider. Get a quote on a solar PV system with battery backup at switchitupinc.com or click the link in the video description below.
The whole cartel thing and them coordinating this invasion is kind of in your wheelhouse. Speak to that for a minute, if you would.
Karl's doing a great job describing what's down there. And one of the things, I just wrote an article for conservative cops this morning.
I don't know if Karl has enough enthusiasm for survival dispatch. We might have to work on this a little bit. Sorry to interrupt.
I do like the energy, man. I wrote an article about, like, it was funny. I wrote an article because a lot of people are saying, like, this is the ground zero for the Civil War. And it's not. Oh, this is, and Karl can attest to this. One of the things I commented on was, I have no doubt that there's a bunch of Texas and Border Patrolmen standing right next to each other,
absolutely,
laughing their asses off, having a cup of coffee, thankful that somebody's finally doing something, that somebody's finally taking a stand. But those guys aren't going to arrest each other. Because they live in the same community. They want the same things. They love this as much as you and I love watching Abbott screw with Biden, right? But what I think people are missing, though, we see what's going on down at the border. But what people are missing is all the way up internally. Border Patrol used to have internal border protection. So they used to be all the way up into the central part of the United States. And the cops, like, I remember being a rookie cop and calling Border Patrol because I stopped a bunch of illegals, and they would roll up in a Border Patrol car up in the San Francisco Bay Area. They would roll up in a Border Patrol car and go take them. And it was awesome.
So they had ICE. They had ICE inside of the jail, right? But have, yes, absolutely. So you get somebody, you can't get the name, they're from another country, ICE will take them. Well, in most jails in all the larger cities, I'm not just speaking on mine. So in most jails in the larger cities, they stop ICE from actually taking people right now, unless it's a serious crime, which that's cutting down. That it's bad. You got, not saying the Hispanics drink and drive the most, but it's pretty high. You get 3, 4, 5. Why are you not being deported? Because we're such a hands-off, kinder, gentler world, and we having these people, just like in New York, when all those immigrants attacked those police officers. Yep. I'm really good with a lot of cops down there through the bomb school and stuff that I went through, and like they're attacking, they're clicking up. They're becoming a gang, and if all immigrants get together, we're all poor, we're going to click up, become a gang, and we know violence. When I'm in a foreign country on vacation, I know that I can go back to the U.S. I just got to do what I need to do and get up out of there if things turn bad.
So a lot of them, when you come up here to like New York, when you get off the bus, there are non-governmental agencies there that are handing them cell phones, handing them gift cards, handing them all this stuff. And then the government is buying them, the local governments are buying them hotel rooms where like entire hotels, nice hotels, ones that you and I probably wouldn't stay at because they're too much money, and they're staying there for free. And then when you go into those hotel rooms, there are horrible conditions. There's booze and drugs everywhere. There's all sorts of sexual assault occurring because they haven't left their bad habits from the country they came from. They brought it up with them. And it's just ridiculous. So that open border down there that Karl's talking about, it just continues all the way up, and they're invading everybody's regular community. And it is all run by the cartels. Like when you go down to the border, the cartels are all running all the human trafficking. So here's the problem. Joe Biden and the rest of the Democrats want to have this open border where they can just come across. Well, the cartels are running it, and they're raping women, kidnapping children. There's child molest occurring constantly. And if you truly want to be humane about it, you would close the border and have a nice orderly way to immigrate. And that would cut down on all this human trafficking.
So the cartel, what they do, because I've came across these individuals too. So you get a coyote. The coyote charges you $5,000, $10,000 to come across. So you have to continue to work with these individuals. Not only are you going to come across, instead of putting it up the prison wallet, you're going to have a backpack full of drugs, and you're going to hump it on through. So I need you to move my dope, and now I need you to move this. Now we're going to take over, different cartels takes over different parts. You have cartel wars at this moment because Cartel Blue and Cartel Red over here, they're like, no, I want this. No, I want this. So now you have this clinging war. Now you have the drugs on our street. So the reason I never chase dope like that, I'd rather chase violent people than dope, is because the simple fact, from the higher level, we need to stop it. If right now, if you arrest somebody for drugs, they're getting out. Like before your paperwork is done, they're getting out. In Texas, you can have, Houston to be exact, 4 ounces of marijuana. 4 ounces, nothing wrong. 4 ounces of marijuana. It used to be damn near, it's crazy amount of drugs that you can bring, pills, crack, all of this stuff that they're trying to legalize and say, it's okay, little buddy. We just want to. But I did find something else out that I was doing some research. So if you're a business and you're taking in illegals and all of this, you're getting grants from the government. They're taking, New York is the reason why New York is doing it, because y'all New York mayor, he's pretty crooked. He's taking the COVID money, is 80-something, 7 million or some crazy amount of money. They're taking their COVID money and they're flipping the name of it. And now they're able to issue it out to these individuals. So they're able to grease their pockets and make this happen. When you think about it, the hindsight of all of this, the more illegals we get in, we can change voting forever. If I get all of these Democratic individuals that I gave free to, guess who they're going to vote for the rest of their life? So if I get 20 million people, now we have just changed the dynamics of the game.
Yeah, there are 3 fairly recent studies that looked at the 2020 census. These undocumented migrants, illegals, whatever you want to call them, were counted in the census and resulted in 28 seats for the House of Representatives going to blue states that were flush with these illegal immigrants versus they should have gone to red states, but the population numbers were skewed. So it's exactly what you're saying, Karl, 100%. Back to New York just for a second. I don't know if you all caught this. The 5 invaders who assaulted the cops, they were all released with no bail, and 4 of them were given bus tickets to go to California. So one reportedly stayed in New York. The other 4 went to California, and they'll never see them ever again.
No, well, because they keep changing their name up too. What people don't realize is once they get here, they'll have like 10 different names, and you won't realize who they are till you can find someplace with a fingerprint scanner to figure out all. And even when you get a fingerprint scanner, it's going to be Jose Martinez, Luis, like whatever. And it's all these, like, we're talking 20 different names.
That's the hardest thing right now. When I pull somebody over and they have a passport, they have 5 different names. And guess what? If they killed somebody in another country, as local law enforcement, we don't have the power to get an Interpol hit unless we fingerprint them, mobile AFIS them, take them to jail and actually process them to know. So you pull over the biggest killer who killed people in El Salvador, chopping off heads or something, guess what? You as local law enforcement don't have the ability and power to figure out who you're dealing with.
And you have I don't think people realize the caliber of criminals that are coming in. Karl's right. We're talking murderers, rapists. We're talking just some horrible people. And it doesn't stop when they come up here. Like the cartel violence that you see down in Mexico, it happens up here too. We have mass shooting, we'll have 10 people killed in a home or people are beheaded. It's exactly what happens in Mexico. It happens up here too.
Sorry, Karl, I was just going to say there have been multiple videos released by the Italian authorities where these boats of migrants coming from Africa into Europe are throwing their IDs into the water, tearing their IDs up, and doing precisely what both of you just said. They just make up some bullshit name.
Yep.
So if I'm a violent person coming from Houston and I have multiple felonies, I'm a killer, I'm all this bad stuff, and you're telling me that, let's just say London is allowing us in and I can start over and be a brand new person, guess what? I'm gonna look at the street gang violence, be like, oh, this is nothing. The things that I'm capable of, I just got to get 3 or 4 people together. We can deploy this on these individuals of something that they're never seen. Our special forces trained the cartel on how to be this violent. Our special forces, our military, we trained them just like with the Taliban and different stuff. We trained them to be the freedom fighters to fight against the supposed evil that we need to go against. So these individuals, they just took it to a whole different level. That's why you see cartel that run harder than the military out there, because these same guys was trained by these individuals, so they know what weapon systems to use. They know how to use their knife. They know how to use that gun because we was trained by the best military in the world.
School of the Americas.
Keith, I got Karl, you can respond to, but I got a question, Keith. So at some point in the past few weeks, we were discussing let's call it the compliance amongst the rank and file officers on the street and being asked to do stuff that's perhaps immoral or unconstitutional. And you described it as either the rank and file either refuses to do it or does a half-assed job and says it's done. Then we also got on the topic of these illegal aliens being able to be sworn in as law enforcement in California.
Yeah.
So let me ask you both a question, because this is what I had to connect the dots afterwards a little bit. But Keith, do you think Newsom in California is doing that specifically because they know the rank and file doesn't support their initiatives? And if they deputize, let's say, these illegal immigrants and promise them citizenship if they serve X amount of years and operate in law enforcement, do you think that's kind of they're making them more compliant, is what I'm getting at, making law enforcement more jackboot like under that scenario?
So I think only Newsom can answer that question, but we can assume. I could tell you as an insider, it looks to me that that's what's occurring. They're saying it's under the guise of a recruiting crisis. Okay, that's bullshit. 100%. Okay, the reason why we have a recruiting crisis is because you drove us all out. I am one of them. I am one of them that was like, I've had enough. I can't take it. They're prosecuting a cop in my county for a righteous self-defense shooting for murder. A guy was attacking him with a baseball bat and he shot and killed the guy. And they're prosecuting for murder. That tells every cop in the county. In the county I worked in, all you guys know I live in Idaho now. That small county where Oakland and Berkeley is has more of a population than the entire state of Idaho.
Wow.
So think about how many cops are there. Every cop stopped working for the most part because, well, if I do my job, you're going to send me to jail. So they literally just respond to calls. Now, look, let's go back to this thing about unconstitutional orders. Okay. So we, as cops, we occasionally get unconstitutional things that occur where they're like, go do this. And you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'll give you an example. Maybe not so much for Karl, but in California, it happens every day, right? They'll pass a law that says you can't bring ammunition into the state. You can't you can only possess certain handguns. And I can tell you right now, the cops all don't give a flying, whatever word you want to use. We don't care. Literally, we ignore it constantly. One of the things I brought up to you was that we do pseudo policing. We go, oh, okay, that's what you want me to do? And then you just don't, and you all know you're not doing it. The problem is Newsom does know that we aren't following through with what he wants. Right. The cops aren't doing it. And look, we're not speaking up because we don't have a First Amendment right. We don't have a First Amendment right to come up and speak up unless you work for a sheriff's office and your sheriff lets you do it. Okay. Yep. So for those of us working in the city, we can't say anything. We don't have a First Amendment right, just like guys in the military. So we don't proclaim at the top of the mountain, hey, we're ignoring this unlawful order. We just don't do it, and you never hear about it.
Me personally, I've never had that happen because we're in the great state of Texas, and I am part of the sheriff's office. So we veer away from that. But the Houston police office, they just because we're in Texas, just like we're fighting right now, we don't have that. But if it did come, the mask mandate, I'm not enforcing somebody that with this whole mask thing. I got more things to worry about. I did want to touch on this. I have seen where illegal immigrants have, because the United States military, and when I was in, this program is nothing new. I've served with some great soldiers from all over the world that came from many different places that was immigrants. They got their citizenship, they work hard, and they are, when I look to my left and my right, they're ready to go to war, they're ready to go to battle, they're ready to kill anything that gets in front of us that's trying to go against the United States Constitution, that's trying to go against people's rights, foreign or domestic. So there are good immigrants that come, but we cannot have something that's just open and wide open. Because we're all three of us on this phone, on this Zoom call, say not every single person that's coming over here is a piece of shit and they want to come over here and destroy and do that. But the thing is, it doesn't, if I got 10,000 people that come over and 10 of those assholes are trying to kill everybody, guess what? Those 10 assholes, we needed to get a hold of them. And if we can't get a hold of them and have some type of border, some type of organization to let the good ones or whatever through, then guess what? It fails. So we all probably can agree to that. Not every person that comes through is trying to murder, rape, and kill our family, but there are individuals that is, and we need to be able to vet them with a fine comb and figure out what their agenda is.
We have a, we have a big content day happening here in North Georgia tomorrow, and we'll have a bunch of different vendors like U.S. Arms Co., William Tell Archery, and the owner of William Tell Archery, his name's Carlos. His family came here from Colombia because of the cartel violence. And they came the right way. They didn't come through illegal channels. And he loves this country as much as any American does. And the same goes for the CMO of Byrna Technologies. No, less lethal stuff.
Yeah.
Unfam is his name. And he's around the same age as Keith and I, mid-50s. His family came here in 1975 to escape communism in Vietnam after we pulled our troops out. That guy's the hardest core redneck I've ever met in my life. Like hardcore. So I just wanted to back up what you're saying, Karl.
So there's something that's called Mexicans for Trump, because people, and we got something called Blacks for Trump. Yeah. So back in 2020, people used to look at me like I had a freaking unicorn growing out of my forehead when I said I'm pro-Trump, because I'm pro. And now people are getting what's happening, because we didn't have the BS that we're having right now. And if you ask any Mexican that's here legally, they don't want the border to be open because it's taking away benefits and rights from them. They don't understand what is ripping away from the people that we already have here.
Karl, you didn't get the memo? If you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black.
Listen, I don't abide by that bullshit.
I'm just saying.
Dude, I don't know how it is, Karl. I don't know how it is for you, but in California, if you have an African-American partner and you're white, the African-American partner gets hammered by the African-American community. Like they go, I feel bad, uncomfortable. Like I'm standing there going like, whoa, man, you need to calm yourself, man. And it's horrible. They just get hammered by them.
I've been there. I have all races of friends. I got white best friends, Hispanic, all types of individuals that I deal with. And on the street, you have a lot of that. It's ridiculous. The people, they look at the skin color, they look at the race, and they go after you. One of the biggest things, and we probably can discuss this into another form, but one of the biggest things in law enforcement, I want to be a cop since I was 3. I want to be a commando, and I want to be the police. Right. And I accomplished both of those things in my life. But they go, you're turning your back on your people. I said, how the hell can you do that when I'm the one that works the projects in the hood, that when little John gets shot in the face, I'm rolling up, looking for the bad guy, trying to get information and find justice for that. Yep. So you have a lot of that goes on. So when
you're doing more to protect their community than they are.
Absolutely. And it's madness. But I don't know. We got Mexicans for Trump because they love him, because he's making sure that the things go the way they go. And one of the biggest things they want to fight and say, well, if you took all the illegal immigrants, look at Florida, the whole thing will be shut down. No. Try that with somebody else. We got good people that's ready to work.
Did you see those 2 guys, Hispanics for Trump? They were at Mar-a-Lago a few days ago. Trump invited them into his home for some sort of gathering or whatnot. But we actually, Trump's nephew, Forgiato Blow, and some of the guys that make music with him, we've got rights to use their music in our videos. And every time I throw it into like a training video or something, there's like a shit ton of comments like, where'd this music come from? We love this, because the Let's Go Brandon song and all that kind of stuff. You're absolutely right. Like that spans the Hispanics, blacks, whites, and everybody in between. So
when he said something, this is very important. So what he said is absolutely. So the troopers and the National Guard men on the thing, the media, they're making it into this big crazy frenzy. It's not happening like that. They're not ready to fight each other, because at the same time, what got rid of a lot of us, and I thank God I got out in time, is the COVID shot. I refuse to let you stick any random thing in my body that I don't want.
Good for you.
You're not just gonna ram me with any random thing inside of my body. You ain't jabbing me with shit that I don't want. So you go out and you start doing this. So a lot of the leadership inside of the military, that started to happen. We're talking about guys with 30, 40 years on, there's fighter jet pilots and stuff like that. They had to get out. I had a really good friend. She got kicked out of the Army because she refused to get the freaking jab. Like, so they will not comply. And the reason why the numbers in the military are down right now, in the military, let's just say that, is because you're not complying to the dumb stuff. When I realized that I needed to go was when an individual decided that I needed to learn that a girl could have a penis and be inside the men's restroom, and I have to do what? It was so confused. I'm not against it, like whatever, but I don't understand what we're doing. Our mission is to seek the enemy and destroy them. That's where people get the military misconstrued. Our mission is to fight wars and kill the enemy.
We could go down a lot of rabbit holes there. My personal belief is, though, this division in the country over that particular subject is being driven by our adversaries, and they poison people into believing these fairy tales. Up until 2018, the World Health Organization for decades listed genderism as body dysmorphia and a mental illness. So this whole thing of 378 genders, we don't support it at Survival Dispatch. I'll flat out, I don't work for law enforcement, so I don't want somebody dropping the hammer. I'll tell you straight up, it's absolute, complete, and utter bullshit. And these are mentally ill people that are now being propped up by the system to say it's okay. It's not okay. How many, Keith, you follow this stuff closely. How many active killer situations did we have last year that were mentally ill people who thought they were some other, it was like 6 or 8 of them. It was pretty widespread that were not right in the head.
Hey, if you don't mind, do you mind if we go back to Newsom and illegals and then becoming cops?
Let's do it.
All right. So I just want to come back and touch on that for a minute, because I think there's some important stuff that Americans should know. California decided that they were going to let illegal aliens become police officers. Well, if you go back and look at NFA rule, or not NFA rules, but our gun laws, and I don't agree with this, but let's just go follow me for a minute so I don't get attacked in the comments. Illegal aliens cannot buy or purchase or possess a firearm.
Right.
Okay. Bear with me for a minute. I know I don't like gun laws either, but here where I'm going with this. So in order to graduate as a police officer in California, you have to pass firearms module. There's about, I want to say probably about 48 hours of firearms or more that you got to go. I think it's upwards of 100 hours of firearms that you have to go through. They were issued. So LAPD and LA County hired illegal aliens, super proud of it, made a big deal out of it. They graduated, and now they're complaining that they can't go on the street because they can't have a gun because they're prohibited from having guns. So they're trying to get the law changed, so that the federal law changed, so that they can now have guns and be cops, make an exemption for police officers. But let's go back. Who at LAPD and LA County issued them a firearm to pass the firearms module so that they can graduate the academy with a post certificate? That's my problem, is now you see police departments being politicized to help these people graduate so they can lift up their people and say, look what we've done. It is absolutely ridiculous. I worked, just like Karl, I worked with a ton of immigrants, people from Cambodia, Vietnam. They had been in wars and fought to get to America. They are the most proud Americans I've ever met. And they are so pissed off because they worked so hard to get here, and all these people are just being let in to go do it. The problem is that our background checks are not as good as they used to be for law enforcement coming in because of the recruiting crisis. So now we see some horrible people coming in that they're ignoring some of the warning signs, right? And not to get too deep in the weeds, but that includes, there are cartel people that are trying to become cops in California through this illegal alien thing. People aren't getting it. Why are they like, they're going off about Texas. And I wrote about this in Conservative Cops today, about how they're talking about how Abbott is starting a civil war by doing this. Hold on. California started that in 2018 when they told law enforcement through a state law, you'll get arrested if you work with ICE. Overnight, we had to stop human trafficking investigations, cartel investigations. Overnight, we couldn't let them in our building. We could not even speak with them. That was the start of the insurrection. It was Newsom. It was California. It is Abbott. I'm not a fan of Abbott. I don't think he's strong enough. But it's about time somebody stood up and did something. It should have happened a long time ago. They're not the insurrectionists. It's the liberals that have been ignoring the Constitution for so many years. I want to hear, when you do this, can you put like American music behind me when I start giving that, when you do your editing? I think that would be awesome.
We'll make something awesome happen. Karl, is this happening in Texas too, where sheriff's departments and local PD are not allowed to work with ICE and CBP and those guys?
Not to that extent, no.
Okay. I think you have some individual departments though. What about Houston and Dallas?
Austin and Dallas.
Austin, maybe.
Yeah.
Austin is a strong possibility. But we still work with these people because Texas, we're not retarded. We have not became down the retarded stream of California. And we know that crime is still out here and it's active. So we need these different departments and sectors to help out with the things. So one of the biggest things that they talk about, because I deal with a heavy population of Hispanics, is if a woman gets the shit beat out of her, then a Hispanic woman gets the shit beat out of her, then she's not going to call the police because she's afraid of being deported. And I agree with that. But at the same time, if somebody's committing violent crimes and stuff like that, they need to go.
So, Karl, let me tell you how it works up in the liberal areas. You're lucky to work where you work.
That's why I'm happy. And like, I'm happy. And
like me.
With my banners and stuff, still being the police. I'm not like, oh man, it's the worst job in the world. No, like I can freely speak about certain things, and my constitutional rights is not, my nuts are not being stepped on.
So in California and other liberal states, illegals will go get court orders. They'll get a divorce, file it through our court system. Then they'll get a domestic, or not domestic violence restraining order, but just a regular restraining order, and then come to the police department, demand that we enforce it. And this has all gone through the courts. This has gone through all these police departments, and everybody's okay with it. And they're suing people. They're doing all these different things, all going through the court. Everybody knows they're illegal, and we treat them like a regular citizen.
So in Texas, the way to get your citizenship is if you was a victim of sexual assault, if you was a victim of domestic violence, you automatically get your citizenship here. Okay. Automatically. If you've been beaten or raped, you're a victim now. You automatically have a citizenship. Is y'all's the same way?
There's some video circulating that I can't speak to the veracity of it this week, but it was actually showing migrants, both Hispanic as well as Chinese, where guys are beating the shit out of their women and crossing the border with them black and blue. I can't speak to the veracity of it, but it's out there.
So that definitely. Did y'all see on the border, they had some guy, I should have sent you this video. He was a real bad dude. He tried to overthrow the government. He was like, I want to say like a Russian or something like that. It was a guy from, I know who you're talking about. It was a Middle Eastern looking guy. Yeah.
It was actually from, was it Tajikistan or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
He's like, you'll know my name. You'll know who I am. And it turns out he did try to overthrow their government, and he's this super bad man. He's out here roaming around right now.
Yeah, Aber Zan or something like that.
That's the one we know about. What about the thousands that we don't know about?
Yeah, tens of thousands.
It's going to be, this is, you teach survival, you teach law enforcement. 10 dedicated men with firearms is a reckoning squad right here in whatever city you standing in right now. If you have 10 armed individuals that's trained in violence, they have guns and the firepower, standard combat load, 240, 250 rounds on them, each 10 of them, and they went downtown right now and started causing hell and destruction on us, we're going to have a problem. There's going to be a lot of people dead before they're stopped.
Well, I don't know if Keith wants to speak to this or not, but there's some open source intel out there where there are these scenarios where, let's say there's a dozen sleeper cells in one area where they'll attack. Their plan is to attack, say, 12 schools tomorrow in a county that has a smaller population, so law enforcement can respond to 1, not 12. And then the next day they'll go to the next county over, and they'll hit 11 schools, and it'll be a small county. Then they go to the next small county and they hit 10 schools. Like, they're losing a sleeper cell each day. Yep. But there's 3 days worth of food on the shelf at grocery stores because of JIT, just in time. I've been saying for years, we're never more than 3 missed meals away from anarchy. You go 3 days with no food on the shelf. Look at what people do over a TV on Black Friday, let alone food. You get into a world without rule of law. But Keith, do you want to speak to that, or?
No, you laid it out clearly. We've known back. I was a cop on 9/11. I'd been a cop for 10 years when 9/11 happened. And there was a misflow of information. We did not get the information we needed like we do now. Well, still, we don't get enough. But the feds put out information to us and let us know, hey, we have sleeper cells and from Hezbollah and Hamas, and this is what they're going to do. And exactly as you described. Funny enough, I just met with a former Joint Terrorism Task Force agent yesterday, and he agreed to come on, Christian Warrior, and we're going to interview him. We're going to redact his face and we'll give him some anonymity, but he's going to come on and tell us exactly what Hezbollah, because he worked on the Hezbollah squad, he's going to tell us what Hezbollah is doing, how they get their money, how they operate in the United States. He's going to give us all that information. And he confirmed exactly like, hey, I remember getting this intel, exactly what you talked about with mass active shooters in different areas. He's going to explain that. He gave me information about how they're crossing the border, and he watched Hezbollah agent cross the border and come over here, where I'm not talking about in between, like going through a point of entry. He went through a point of entry with an invalid visa and was still let in.
That's crazy.
We're in deep doo-doo, my friends.
You talk about that. I've worked every major freaking catastrophe in the Houston area, and all hell breaks loose. Hurricane Harvey, when things start going underwater, it's complete mayhem. When people don't understand that on 9/11, I'm pretty sure 911 failed. The system will fail. You're your own protector. There's no one coming to save you. And if I'm not mistaken, the federal law says law enforcement does not have a duty to protect you.
No, that's true. You're right. That's a Supreme Court decision where they came out and said that the police have no duty to protect you. I have been there. I've been there where I've been on a SWAT call out and I'm ready to go with my boys. And I was told, we don't have a duty to protect. We're in and out killing this guy. Let's just leave. And then we'll pick him up another day.
You talk about that. That is so true. I've been in that situation too. If it's just him in the room, in the house or something by himself, just leave it alone. Let him cool off. We're backing off the scene.
But the problem is, Karl, just like I do, that guy is shooting rounds, saying he's going to kill everybody, and we're told to leave.
Well, I've never had that situation.
Oh, no, I've had that. And let me tell you, so what you do, because we don't cut the cord, you're good cops and you go sit in an unmarked unit and you wait for him to come out and then you dogpile him when he comes out. But like there are some things that we should leave, right? Like, hey, look, it isn't worth it. Like we would end up killing this guy. Let's just leave. But there are some where you have supervisors that say, and I'm not saying like, I have talked to other officers that have run across this. You don't have a duty, especially now, like go back to like places like Alameda County, San Francisco, LA County, right? Like very liberal areas where the DAs are prosecuting cops.
I'm gonna get off topic too bad, but I just got to say this one thing. They're trying to prosecute. Fuck those guys, number one. And the ones in Uvalde, fuck them for not going in. But they're talking about prosecuting them. You cannot prosecute. What are you going to prosecute them for? What law is it? Fail to act?
So funny. California changed their use of force law where you and I worked off of Graham v. Connor. What a reasonable officer would do. You guys got to look up a Supreme Court case called Graham v. Connor. It dictates how we do use of force in America.
Okay.
California changed it. Instead of using reasonable force, what a reasonable person would use to overcome resistance, California changed it to necessary. By changing it to necessary force, the officer has to show that it was necessary to use that force. I'll give you an example. If you have a hostage situation and the guy's like, I'm going to kill my whole family right now. And he's got a gun, he pops some rounds and he says he's going to kill his family. You can't really shoot him yet because you still have a chance to talk to this guy. Like we can still work this out, right? That's how they're prosecuting cops, is they're saying it wasn't necessary. Unreal. So they changed the law. They can't defund the police. They tried to defund the police and it didn't work. So what they did was they passed laws to make it to where we can't do our job. In my personal opinion, if we want to go deep into the rabbit hole, my personal opinion, going back to Obama, the libs have come out and said that they want a federalized police force and I'll tell you why they want it is because people like me and people like Karl will never seize people's guns, will never disobey the Constitution. But if you get a federalized police force where Karl works in an area where they support the police, they'll send a group of people over to go enforce whatever law they want. And I think it's just them subverting the police so they can do a federalized police force down the road.
You start doing that and fuck, I don't even want to say that sounds bad, but you start.
Come on, let's get angry, Karl. Let's go, buddy. Come on.
You start talking about taking people guns and doing all that. And you start doing that when enough individuals start getting projectiles inside of their bodies, they're going to stop doing dumb shit. I'm sorry. Like you can keep trying that. And then that's where you have, I tell my wife in life, there is a time where I draw a line in the sand. I'm going to attempt to de-escalate every situation that is possible. Yeah. And what de-escalation comes from, I teach defensive tactics. Where de-escalation comes from, me knowing I have the ability of violence. If I say, hey, get your hands out of your pocket, and I know I got a call for an armed man with a gun that said he's going to start shooting people. Hey, get your hands out of your pocket. I tell you, get your motherfucking hands out of your pocket. And then I put my hands on you and put you on the ground. I attempted to de-escalate the situation. My de-escalation is leg sweeping you, putting you in an arm bar and placing you in handcuffs. Or if an individual is not complying, de-escalation, I know after de-escalation is not working, words are not working, violence is going to take place. That's what a lot of individuals, they're not capable of violence anymore. They don't have the skills, they don't have the tools for the violence. In law enforcement, we're not teaching how to overcome things that we need to do. When I first started, and it wasn't that long ago, 9-10 years ago, We knew how to respond to a level of violence to always be one up. An individual puts their hands up, we put a taser up. An individual put their hands up to fight, we take a ass baton and we overcome them. You pull out a freaking butter knife or a little sword like mine, I'm going to overcome that with something bigger.
I don't know what you think, Keith, but Karl's got to work on the energy level. That's it.
This is coming off of 16 hours of working.
That's crazy. So I know Keith's got to get going. Is there anything else you guys would like to add before we wrap it up?
You can find me at tactical_Karl on Instagram, also Tactical Karl on YouTube. I do a lot of training. I'm going to be connecting with both of these guys because they're speaking. They over here. I don't know, I'm kind of dark, but they're giving me goosebumps over here talking about this. My wife's in a yoga business meeting back there, and I am fired up right now.
Well, you wouldn't know it, but this is Keith fired up. He's very, all right, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate your time and your insight. Be safe out there.
Take care.
Boom.
This video is sponsored by William Tell Archery Supplies, home of the Mini Striker Crossbow. Click the link in the description below to learn more.